You wake up in the morning, it's early, and you definitely don't want to get out of bed. However, you must because responsibility beckons. The first thing on your mind is likely how good that morning cup of joe is going to taste and feel as it takes over your body. You know that within the first few sips, the mental state that constituted your morning so far is about to be completely flipped.
See, caffeine is everywhere, and likely every single adult you know consumes some form of it, and their kids as well. Whether that be your standard cup of coffee, tea, soda, any of the hundreds of energy drinks, caffeine is America's most adored drug.
As a result, 90% of American adults consume some form of it on the daily, and half of them consuming 300 milligrams or more. The most consumed form of caffeine being coffee. Either luckily or not, coffee has actually a number of health benefits. Those being reduced risk for cardiovascular disease, decreased risk for stroke, high in polyphenols, and caffeinated coffee has even been shown to reduce certain types of cancer and reduce the likelihood of developing Parkinson's disease. Although, not all coffee beans are equal in their health benefits. Many beans are doused in pesticides and chemicals, developing mold in production processes, and being charred during roasting, which completely throws away any possible health benefits coffee might bring you. I, like everyone else, have had my fair share of encounters with lady caffeine. Only a few months ago, I thought I would try drinking coffee for no particular reason, and I no more than finished the cup when I felt the wave of caffeine take over my perception. I experienced jitters, increased heart rate, sweating, and an almost zoomed out perception change. I was high on caffeine, not necessarily what I had expected when I started my morning. I continued to experiment with varying levels of caffeine and tried to only use it unless I really needed it. This led me to question why my experience with caffeine was so intense. First, I had to figure out how does caffeine make us so hyper and awake, even in the most drowsy of scenarios. Well, caffeine is very similar to a nucleoside named adenosine, which causes drowsiness by slowing nerve cell activity. Caffeine comes in and binds to the adenosine receptors, making them unavailable to receive adenosine. This causes your nerves to fire like crazy, and as a result, your pituitary gland sees this and signals the adrenal glands to fire, releasing the hormone adrenaline or epinephrine. This is your fight or flight response, and this causes your heart rate to increase, a rise in blood pressure, and a rise in your body temperature as well. This makes caffeine really good for increasing athletic performance because it helps to prime your body for exercise. Studies show with aerobic exercise an increase in performance of up to 5 to 10% compared to placebo groups.
See, the Mayo Clinic recommends no more than 400 milligrams of caffeine a day, and if you exceed this, you can get a number of side effects
that range from headaches, tremors, fast heart rate, and an uneasy stomach.
The most prominent side effect being the disturbance of your circadian rhythm and deep sleep.
Deep sleep is the most restorative sleep you can get, allowing you to wake up feeling refreshed.
Because caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours, this means that caffeine is most likely in your system by the time you lay down in your bed to try to fall asleep at night. And this has obvious implications with your sleep. Oftentimes you'll see people order a cup of coffee after dinner, or maybe they stop by at Starbucks on the way home after work for a nice cup of coffee. These habits can have a detrimental effect on your sleep patterns, and what it does is it builds up a deficit, causing you go into a feedback loop, needing more and more coffee each day. Reactions to caffeine's effect vary largely from person to person, and this has to do with
external factors like medications, activity levels, diet, and even caffeine itself determine how it affects you.
But internal factors vary from anywhere from your heritage, who are your parents, your ethnicity, to genetics.
Once caffeine enters your gastrointestinal tract, it gets absorbed and broken down by a liver enzyme, which is coded by gene CYP1A2. And any variability in CYP1A2 will determine how caffeine is metabolized by your body. The ability to clear caffeine can vary up to 40-fold between individuals. It turns out that up to 50% of the population metabolizes caffeine slower. Coffee and caffeine have a very large grip on our culture as a whole, and I think it goes far beyond just being a tasty pick-me-up beverage in the morning. Coffee shops have become sort of an aesthetic thanks to companies like Starbucks. It's a place you want to be seen. They've become another form of social outing with friends and loved ones. Walk into any coffee shop and you'll see more than a few people on their shiny MacBooks studying or working cozily in an armchair. It's also become a place of dainty cookies, ceramic cups, and superior roasting methods, and there's almost an undeniable sense of pretentiousness in the air. Whether good or bad, America will never be without caffeine in this way, and it's one of the last few places of social cohesion and openness our culture is in desperate need of. However, you can become a slave to the drug, letting it dictate what type of day you're gonna have. Being a slave to anything, even if it's as harmless as coffee, doesn't spell good in the short or the long run.
Now, of course, caffeine and coffee are highly individualized. So what doesn't work for me might not necessarily work for you. Try out a bunch of different things, see how caffeine works with you. Use it as a tool. Don't become slave to caffeine and let it dictate your moods and emotions, because you lose a lot of the higher level thinking that is required, because all you can think about is getting that next hit of caffeine.